There's a very special moment in every day, and most of us overlook it. It is not the morning when you set your goals, and not the daytime when you try to control everything. It is the evening, right before you fall asleep, when the lights go out, your shoulders stop being tense, and the outside world grows quiet. In that moment, the tired ego lets go, and the unconscious begins to speak. Jung believed that sleep is not only for rest, but a doorway, and what you carry into that moment does not disappear in the night. It quietly sinks deep into the mind, touching the place where habits are formed, where fears are nurtured, and where tomorrow's version of you is silently being created. The state you are in when you sleep often determines how you wake, because if you sleep in busyness, your mind feels heavy, and if you sleep in tension, the whole day passes in exhaustion. Just one thought at the end of the day is enough to change the direction of your emotions and your actions. So before going to sleep, what should you think about so that every morning you wake up, your life no longer repeats the way it used to? Stay until the end, because that small thing could be the beginning of a change in your entire life. When the ego lowers, the unconscious begins to speak. Night is usually not loud, yet it is when the mind talks the most, not in clear words, but in vague feelings that keep you tossing and turning. A day can pass very smoothly, everything gets done, and yet, as soon as you lie down, an uncomfortable emptiness appears. Not exactly sadness and not exactly worry, only the sense that something is off, something you never touch during the day. In the daytime, you live by one part of yourself, the ego, which helps you survive and keep your emotions manageable. But it is also a strict controller, and to maintain a stable image, it pushes aside whatever does not fit. So the emotions that make you feel weak and the thoughts that shake the image of "I am this kind of person" are simply pushed down below. You rarely notice this in the daytime, but at night, as your energy runs out, the ego can no longer maintain absolute control, and although it does not collapse, it lowers, and the unconscious finally has space to speak. According to Jung, the unconscious is not a dark part to be eliminated, but the foundation of your psychological life, containing everything you have never fully lived or allowed yourself to become. And at night, when your roles fall away, it sends signals not to disrupt you, but to restore balance to who you are. A clear example is people always seen as strong, who handle their work neatly and rarely complain, yet at night struggle to sleep when nothing new has happened, and still a heavy emptiness rises inside them, a sign that the ego has been working too long while other parts of them have been neglected. The unconscious does not speak in logic. It speaks through feelings, fleeting images, and old memories that return without warning. And Jung believed those moments reach you most clearly because the ego is no longer strong enough to distort the message. As Jung wrote, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." He did not say the unconscious is terrifying, only that if you are not aware of what operates inside you, you live under its influence, thinking you are choosing when in fact you are reacting according to patterns formed long ago. Imagine the mind as a lake, where in the daytime the wind keeps rippling the surface, so you only see the moving surface and assume that is the whole lake. But when night comes, the wind calms and the surface smooths, and you begin to see what lies beneath, not because the bottom suddenly appears, but because for the first time the water is still enough to reflect. The unconscious is the same, always there, and only when the ego lowers do you get the chance to sense it, and it appears not to make you weaker, but so that you can become more whole. If you realize that when the ego lowers, the unconscious is trying to say something, you are standing at the first door to a profound change, because transformation begins not with daytime effort, but with the ability to listen when you are no longer in control. What you carry into sleep will follow you into tomorrow. The night does not end your day. It extends it into a form that is quieter, yet far more persistent. Before sleep, you are no longer alert enough to edit yourself into what is right. So you stop playing the strong one, the positive one, or the understanding one. And according to Jung, the unconscious takes in that very state as a foundation. Sleep does not erase what you just lived. It carries it into the next day without needing your permission. Because for the unconscious, everything is one continuous stream. And whatever has not been emotionally closed does not disappear when you close your eyes. It only retreats deeper and keeps influencing you when you wake. That is why some mornings begin with a heavy feeling that is hard to name, while other mornings you find more room to breathe even though your circumstances are no easier. And that difference comes not from the new day, but from the state you carried over from the night before. As Jung wrote, "The dream is the small hidden door in the deepest and most intimate sanctum of the soul." A dream does not lead to something foreign. It leads you into what is already present. Because it does not create a new state from nothing, it continues processing the state you carried into sleep. The unconscious does not judge your states as good or bad. It only registers what is familiar. So if you often fall asleep in tension, it learns to operate in tension. And if you often fall asleep with a sense of lack, it treats lack as the baseline and keeps it the next day. Not to make you suffer, but because that is what it has grown used to. This is why so many people feel their lives repeat, because they set new goals and act differently, and yet at night, they end the day with the same old feeling, and the unconscious keeps guiding them back into the same rhythm, not because they do not try hard enough, but because they work at the surface while the roots are fed every night. So the practice is not forcing yourself to think positively, because Jung did not believe in suppressing emotions, but simply taking a few minutes before sleep in a quiet space with no phone and no distractions, and asking what state is present inside me right now. If you can name it, whether anxiety, exhaustion, emptiness, or calm, that is enough. Because naming it is not about control. It is about letting the inner state be seen exactly as it is. And when a state becomes conscious, it begins to lose its silent power over you, not because it disappears, but because you are no longer carrying it unconsciously into tomorrow. This is a way of closing a day with awareness rather than letting the day close you. And when you do it long enough, your mornings gradually change, not because life changes, but because the inner current has been adjusted. If what you have just heard makes you recognize a familiar state that you often carry into sleep, share it in the comments, because your very personal story might reach someone else who carries that same state every night and has never understood why. The darkness appears only when you stop distracting yourself. From the moment you stop trying to fix yourself into someone more fine and stop avoiding the feeling present inside, something special happens. And it is not relief and not peace, but darkness. Thoughts you do not want to think, emotions you once called negative, and parts of you that in the daytime you always sidestep begin to surface. And this darkness does not come because you are weak. It comes because you have stopped distracting yourself. In the daytime, distraction is the most common survival strategy of modern people, where work follows work and screen follows screen. So that each time an uncomfortable feeling rises, you immediately find something else to think about. At night, in the moment before sleep, it is no longer easy because the space quiets down and the body slows. And when you finally stop running, what you left behind begins to catch up. Jung called that part the shadow, and it does not mean evil. It is the collection of parts excluded from consciousness, because they do not fit the image you have built of yourself, the emotions you believe are bad, and the aspects that make you feel ashamed, weak, or contradictory. In the daytime, you do not see it because the light of busyness is too strong, and when that light turns off, the shadow is not something newly appearing, it is simply something that for the first time is no longer hidden. As Jung wrote, "One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." He said, Maturity comes not from focusing only on the positive, but from daring to make the dark part conscious. Because what you do not see is what has the strongest power to control you. A Greek myth reflects this in the journey of Persephone, who was not pulled down into the underworld because she was weak, but because it was part of the cycle. And only after spending time in the world below did she become a queen rather than remaining an innocent girl, which reminds us that some parts of maturity only happen when we dare to step into unfamiliar regions of ourselves. In the daytime, the mind is like a room with bright lights and people constantly coming and going, so you never notice the dark corners. But when night comes and the lights go off, those corners do not disappear. They simply become more visible because nothing is covering them anymore. So darkness appears not when you think negatively, but when you are quiet enough to hear what has been overlooked, which is why many people fear silence. Because deep down, they know that without distraction, they will have to face something. When the shadow appears, what you need is not to drive it away, but to acknowledge it with no judgment, simply recognizing that this too is a part of me. Because if you look long enough, you will realize that behind every shadow, there is a need that has not been heard. Many think that facing the shadow will make them worse, but Jung saw it the opposite way, because when it is pushed down for too long, it does not disappear. It finds ways to express itself through your behavior and your choices, until you no longer understand why you keep repeating the same things. When it appears, it is not to punish you, but to be integrated, brought into consciousness where it no longer controls you from behind, and the moment before sleep is when you have a rare chance to do that. So if you feel uncomfortable in silence, it may not be a problem to fix, but a message to listen to. Because as Jung pointed out, no wholeness is built from light alone, and no journey of maturity happens without passing through the dark regions of the soul. The last image of the day shapes the person you wake up as. When you stop filling the night with distraction, the mind stops processing only scattered emotions and begins to hold on to an image, not a visual one, but an inner image of you and of how you exist in this world. And that final image right before you fall asleep is what shapes the person you wake up as. Jung believed the mind operates not mainly through logical language, but through images. So in the moment before sleep, when consciousness is tired, the unconscious places in you a background image that carries a distinctive feeling, answering the quiet question of, who am I when everything settles down? So before sleeping, what image do you carry about yourself? A person always one step behind life, a person who is not good enough, or a person learning to accept themselves even with many things still incomplete. The unconscious has already answered by leaving that image in the mind. I know a friend who is very good at his job, trusted and praised, always calm and in control in the daytime. But he once said that every night before sleep, the same image appears in his head, where he is standing alone. And behind him is a long stretch of road already walked, while ahead is a haze with no clarity, and there is no tragedy in it, only a very slight loneliness. He thought it was just fatigue, but the next morning he always woke with a quiet feeling that he had to carry everything himself and could not rely on anyone. And no one taught him that feeling, and no event created it, because it was shaped by the very last image he carried into sleep, night after night. From Jung's perspective, this is not random, because the unconscious uses images to create what he called an attitude toward life. And the last image of the day is like a negative template, so that when you wake up, every new experience is printed onto it, which is why two people can wake in the same circumstances and respond completely differently. As Jung wrote, dreams are impartial, spontaneous products of the unconscious psyche outside the control of the will. A dream is not something we consciously create. It is a spontaneous product that appears when the will no longer controls. So the images that arise before sleep speak not about what we think we are feeling, but about the real position we are standing in within our inner life. You can imagine this like setting a photo as your phone wallpaper, because during the day, You open dozens of apps and watch all kinds of content. Yet each time you return to the home screen, the background photo is still there, and the last image of the day works the same way, sitting quietly as the background on which all your other thoughts appear. Jung believed that deep transformation begins not by changing circumstances, but by changing the inner image. And you do not have to force a new one, because what matters more is recognizing what image automatically appears each night, since that is what the unconscious is trying to say about you. He did not believe in fake positive images, but in making the existing one conscious. So recognize it, stay with it, and ask quietly what it is saying about how you are living. Because when an image becomes conscious, it begins to shift, enough that you are no longer shaped by it in a blind way. The last image of the day is an honest mirror of your relationship with yourself. And the person you wake up as each morning is not random. It is the person shaped from that image repeated night after night. If you feel this touch something deep inside, share it with someone who is also closing each day with images similar to yours. Because just being passed to the right person at the right time can begin a very quiet change. Each night is a silent step on the journey back to yourself. Life does not turn in a new direction just because of one big decision, because what truly shapes who you become lies in very quiet, very small moments repeated so often that you no longer notice them. And each night when you close a lived day, you are stepping onto such a journey. Jung called this journey individuation, the process by which a person gradually becomes themselves, not the version most accepted by society, but the most whole version. And wholeness here does not mean perfection. It means no longer being split, no longer living only by the part allowed to appear in the daytime while the rest is pushed into the shadow. This journey does not happen through force, but through permission, the permission to stay with yourself, especially in the moments no one sees, because at night, when your roles fall away and there is no one to impress, the person behind them finally has space to breathe. Each time you end a day without running from the feelings left behind, you move a little closer to your real self, and this journey is like walking in fog, where you cannot see far, but each step takes you away from the old point. And each night, whether you are aware of it or not, you are still walking. Jung himself is a clear example because after separating from Freud, and already famous in the scientific community, he entered a period of deep inner crisis, remaining a respected scholar in the daytime, while at night he faced dreams and emotions so intense that even he was bewildered. Instead of suppressing them, he chose to stay with what appeared at night, recording it, drawing it, and dialoguing with his inner world. And those experiences were later gathered in the Red Book, not as a scientific work, but as a map of the journey back inward. He did not escape the darkness in one night, he moved through it night by night, which shows that the journey back to yourself is not a journey upward, but a journey inward. And the deeper you go, the more you realize you do not need to become someone else. You only need to stop moving away from yourself. As Jung wrote, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." That privilege is not success or recognition, but becoming yourself, and becoming yourself is not adding something new. It is gradually removing the layers that are not yours, the roles worn too long, and the images you used to survive, but that no longer reflect who you truly are. Each night, when you lie down with no one to prove anything to and no goal to achieve, you move a little closer to the part of you that does not need to perform, and it is the repetition of these real moments night after night that creates the biggest change, not in your personality, but in your relationship with yourself. The practice is very simple because before sleep, you can place one hand on your chest, breathe evenly, and give yourself a few minutes to stop, feeling the breath rising and falling under your hand, with no need to adjust your state and no need to reach anything, simply staying still with what is present. Those changes come not from daytime determination, but from the integration happening at night. So each night is not an escape from life. It is a return to the part of you that does not need to be fixed, only to be acknowledged. And when you begin to see sleep this way, you no longer see it as emptiness, but as very quiet, very steady footsteps on the journey back to yourself. Perhaps by now, you have realized something important, that your life is not truly decided by what you do in the daytime, but by how you end each day. The moment before sleep, when every role falls away and there is no need to prove or control, you stand closer to your real self than at any other time. And that moment, repeated long enough, quietly shapes the person you wake up as the next morning. Carl Jung did not see change as a loud breakthrough, but as a quiet process in which consciousness gradually learns to listen to the unconscious, so that each night, when you stop distracting yourself and stop running from the feelings left behind, you allow the neglected parts of you to return. And when the real self is present long enough, life cannot help but change direction. You do not need to think of anything grand before sleep, because the only thing you need to carry is honesty about the feeling that is present, about the image that is in you, and about the distance between the person you are living as and the person you truly are. And Jung believed that this honesty, not positive thinking or strong willpower, is the foundation of a whole life. If this video made you pause and think, press like to support the channel. And if you want to continue exploring deeper perspectives on the mind, the unconscious, and the journey back to yourself, do not forget to subscribe, because sometimes just changing one thing before going to sleep is enough for life to begin to change.